My phone screamed into the darkness at 2:47 a.m. I jolted awake, heart already pounding before my brain caught up. The screen lit up my bedroom with Kiara's name flashing across it. My daughter never called this late. Never. Mom! Her voice cracked through the speaker, high and terrified in a way that turned my blood to ice. Mom, I'm at the police station. Darnell beat me. He put his hands on me, Mum, but now he's telling them that I attacked him first. They believe him. Nobody's listening to me. I was already moving, yanking on yesterday's jeans, my hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the fabric. Baby, calm down. Which station? Where are you? The one on 14th Street. Mom, please hurry. They're talking about charging me. I'm scared. I'm coming right now. Don't say anything else until I get there. You hear me? Nothing. I grabbed my captain's badge from the nightstand, my service weapon from the lockbox, and I was out the door in under 3 minutes. The streets blurred past as I pushed my car 20 miles over the limit. My mind raced faster than my engine. Darnell beat her. My husband put his hands on my daughter. The words kept looping in my head, each repetition making less sense than the last. 8 months. We'd only been married 8 months. I met Darnell at the annual community fundraiser last spring. He owned 3 car dealerships across the city. Always dressed sharp, always knew the right thing to say. When he approached me at the silent auction, his smile was warm, and his confidence felt like solid ground after years of standing alone. Captain Morrison, he'd said, already knowing who I was. I've heard impressive things about your work with the youth outreach program. That first conversation lasted 2 hours. He asked about my job, really listened when I talked about the challenges of being a black woman leading a police department. He didn't flinch when I mentioned Kiara, didn't do that thing some men do where their eyes go distant the second they hear you have kids. A daughter, he'd said, his face lighting up. That's beautiful. Family is everything. The courtship happened fast. Too fast, Rashida kept warning me. But after 3 years of lonely dinners and empty beds following my divorce from Kiara's father, Darnell felt like a gift. He brought flowers to the station. He took Kiara and me to expensive restaurants. He promised weekend trips to places Kiara had always wanted to visit. He's moving awful quick, Rashida had said one night over drinks. Her detective's eyes narrowed with concern. You sure you know this man? I ran a full background check. I'd laughed, though looking back now, I heard how defensive I sounded. He's clean, successful, good man. She'd said, but the doubt in her voice lingered. The wedding happened in July, small and simple in my backyard. Kiara was my maid of honor, smiling in her purple dress. Darnell moved in the next week with his expensive leather furniture and flat-screen TVs, and that cologne that cost more than my grocery bill. For the first month, everything seemed perfect. Darnell cooked elaborate Sunday dinners. He helped Kiara with her algebra homework. He kissed me goodbye every morning before heading to work. Then the small changes started. You let her talk to you like that? He asked one evening, after Kiara rolled her eyes at something I said. She needs more discipline, Janelle. She's getting too wild. She's 15, I'd replied. All 15-year-olds have attitude. Not in my house, they don't. My house! I should have corrected him. But I didn't. I let it slide. When my shifts ran long, investigating crime scenes or working gang interventions, Darnell started implementing new rules. No phone after 8 p.m. No friends over on school nights. Mandatory family dinners where Kiara had to sit and answer questions about her day while Darnell watched her like she was a suspect in an interrogation room. He's just trying to bond with her, I told myself, ignoring the way Kiara started eating faster, answering shorter, disappearing to her room the second she was excused. Mum, he's too much, she tried telling me one Sunday while we washed dishes together. He goes through my stuff when I'm at school. He reads my texts. He's concerned about you, I'd said, handing her a plate to dry. He cares. No, Mom. He's controlling. It's different. But I was already getting called to another scene, already grabbing my keys, already promising we'd talk about it later when everyone was calmer. That talk never happened. 3 weeks ago, Kiara came to me with bruises on her arm, finger-shaped marks purple against her brown skin. "Darnell grabbed me," she said, her voice steady but her eyes wet. I talked back about the phone rule and he grabbed my arm hard. Really hard, Mum. I was already late for a meeting with the mayor. Another gang shooting had the whole city on edge. "Kiara, I don't have time for drama right now. You probably just bruise easy." "Mom, we'll discuss this later. I have to go." I left her standing in the hallway, and I didn't bring it up again. I told myself I was too busy, too stressed, that teenage girls exaggerate everything. I told myself Darnell would never hurt her on purpose. Now I pulled into the police station parking lot, tires squealing. The building I'd walked into 1,000 times as a captain suddenly felt foreign and hostile. I burst through the front doors, my badge already in my hand. Officer Tremaine Foster looked up from the front desk. He was young, maybe 26, only 2 years on the force. When he saw me, every drop of color drained from his face. "Captain Morrison." His voice came out strangled. I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't know. I didn't know she was your..." That's when I saw her. Kiara sat on the bench against the far wall, handcuffed. Her face was swollen from crying, her braids messy, her favorite hoodie torn at the shoulder. And covering both her arms, visible even from across the room, were bruises. Fresh ones mixed with old ones I'd ignored 3 weeks ago. Across the room, Darnell stood talking to another officer. His lip was bleeding. His expensive shirt was torn. He looked like the victim. He looked perfect. Officer Foster couldn't meet my eyes. He kept looking down at his paperwork, his pen shaking slightly in his hand. Sweat beaded on his forehead, even though the station was cold enough to see my breath. "Captain, we received a call at approximately 2:15 a.m. from your husband, Mr. Hayes. He reported that your daughter attacked him with a lamp during a domestic dispute. When we arrived at the residence, Mr. Hayes had visible injuries consistent with assault. Your daughter fled the scene, but was apprehended 2 blocks away." My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. "Apprehended? You chased down my 15-year-old daughter in the middle of the night?" "Ma'am, she was fleeing the scene of a violent crime." "She's a child!" My voice echoed off the concrete walls. Every officer in the building turned to look. I forced myself to breathe, to remember I was wearing a badge even if I wasn't on duty. "Uncuff her." "Now." Foster hesitated, glancing toward Darnell. That small look told me everything. My husband had already worked his magic, already charmed these officers into seeing him as the victim and my daughter as the threat. "I need to speak with my daughter privately," I said, my voice dropping to that tone I used in interrogations. "Unless you're formally charging her." "Not yet, ma'am, but..." "Then uncuff her and give me a room." Foster fumbled with his keys and released Kiara. She launched into my arms, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I held her tight, breathing in the coconut oil from her hair products, feeling how thin she'd gotten. How had I not noticed? How had I missed my own daughter disappearing right in front of me? "It's okay, baby," I whispered. "I'm here now. I'm here." We walked to interrogation room 3, the same room where I'd questioned countless suspects. Kiara sat in the metal chair, wiping her face with her sleeve. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, the damage was worse. Bruises covered her forearms in layers, some yellow and fading, some dark purple and fresh. Fingerprint marks circled her wrist. A red mark on her neck looked suspiciously like a handprint. "Tell me everything," I said, sitting across from her. "Start from the beginning." Kiara's voice was small but steady. "I wasn't sneaking out, Mom. I swear I wasn't. I was trying to leave because I couldn't take it anymore. He's been getting worse every day." "Worse how?" The rules kept getting crazier. No closing my bedroom door. No talking to friends about family business. He started coming into my room at night to check that I was asleep. Just standing there in the doorway watching me. It was creepy, Mom. Really creepy. My stomach twisted. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. You were always working or tired or said we'd talk later. And every time I tried to say something bad about Darnell, you defended him. You chose him over me. The words hit like bullets. She was right. I had chosen him. Or at least I'd chosen to ignore her warnings, because admitting I'd made a mistake meant admitting I'd rushed into another failed marriage. What happened tonight? I asked. I was packing a bag, just some clothes and my phone charger. I was going to call Dad, ask him to pick me up, but Darnell heard me moving around. He came to my door and started yelling about disrespect, about how he worked hard to give me a good home and I was ungrateful. Kiara's hands trembled as she touched her neck. He backed me into the corner, Mum. His face was so close to mine I could smell the whiskey on his breath. He said I needed to learn my place in his house. When I tried to push past him, he grabbed my throat. My vision went red. He choked you? Just for a few seconds. But I couldn't breathe. I panicked. I grabbed the lamp off my nightstand and swung it at him. It hit his face and he let go. I ran for the front door, but he caught me in the driveway. He wasn't even mad anymore, Mum. That was the scariest part. He was calm. He smiled at me and said, "Go ahead and run. I've already called the police. Let's see who they believe." I stood up, pacing the small room. My mind was racing through procedure, through evidence collection, through everything I knew about building a case. But this wasn't just any case. This was my daughter, my husband. "Stay here," I said. "Don't talk to anyone else." I found Rashida in the hallway. She'd arrived while I was talking to Kiara, still in her pajamas with her detective's badge clipped to her waistband. She'd been my partner for 15 years before I made captain. She knew me better than anyone. "I need the body cam footage," I said, from whoever responded to the call. "Already pulled it," Rashida said, holding up her tablet. "You're not going to like it." We watched the footage in an empty office. The responding officers arrived at my house at 2:18 a.m. Darnell met them at the door, his lip bleeding, his shirt torn. His performance was flawless. "Officers, thank God you're here," he said, his voice shaking just right. "My stepdaughter. She's been having anger issues lately. Her mother and I have been trying to get her help, but tonight she just exploded. I asked her to turn down her music and she attacked me with a lamp. I'm worried about her. I think she might be using drugs." My hands clenched into fists. Drugs. He was planting seeds, building a narrative. The officers were eating it up. "Where is she now, sir?" "She ran. I didn't want to chase her and make things worse. She's 15, about 5'6", wearing a grey hoodie. Please, just find her and make sure she's safe." She needs help. Concerned stepfather. Worried parent. Victim of a violent teen. He hit every note perfectly. "There's more," Rashida said, forwarding the video. "Watch what he said when they asked about your daughter's mother." Darnell's face shifted into something sad and worried. "Her mother is Captain Janelle Morrison. She's an incredible woman, dedicated to her job. But I think maybe she's been too busy to notice how troubled Kiara's become. The divorce from Kiara's father was hard on her. She's been acting out, pushing boundaries. Tonight just went too far. He was protecting himself from every angle. If I pushed back too hard, I'd look like a mother in denial, or a captain abusing her power. He's done this before," Rashida said quietly. "I can feel it. This is too smooth." Before I could respond, the door opened. A man in an expensive suit walked in, his silver briefcase catching the light. Vernon Cross, the most expensive defense attorney in the city, known for destroying careers and winning impossible cases. "Captain Morrison," he said, his smile cold and professional. "I represent Mr. Hayes. I have some documents for you." He handed me a folder. Inside was a restraining order request against Kiara, formal assault charges, and a letter demanding I be investigated for bias and removed from my position pending review. But the worst part was the second folder. Text messages, Screenshots of conversations between Darnell and Kiara going back months. Except they weren't complete. Kiara's angry responses were there. I hate you. Leave me alone. I wish you were dead. But Darnell's messages that came before them were missing. The provocations, the insults, the threats, all deleted, leaving only Kiara's reactions looking like unprovoked attacks from a troubled teen. Vernon leaned close, his voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. Your husband has been very thorough, Captain. Text messages, recorded arguments, witnesses who'll testify about Kiara's behavioral problems. This won't end well for either of you. Unless, of course, we can reach an agreement. My blood turned to ice as the trap closed around us. Think carefully about your next move, Vernon said, straightening his tie. Mr. Hayes is willing to be reasonable, but only if you are. I couldn't take Kiara home. My own house was off limits because Darnell had already filed for emergency protective orders. A judge had signed them at 3 a.m, based solely on Darnell's testimony and those manipulated text messages. My daughter was legally barred from her own bedroom. We drove to Rashida's apartment in silence. Kiara stared out the window, her arms wrapped around herself. I kept glancing at her, noticing things I'd been too blind to see before. The weight loss, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she flinched when my phone buzzed. How long has he been recording you? I asked. I don't know. Maybe 2 months? I'd hear clicking sounds during our arguments. But when I'd look, his phone would be in his pocket. He was smart about it, Mum. He'd say terrible things to me, call me names, tell me I was stupid and worthless. But he'd wait until I started yelling back before he'd start recording. So all anyone hears is me screaming while he sounds calm. Rashida had coffee waiting when we arrived. She'd already converted her spare bedroom for Kiara, putting fresh sheets on the bed and leaving out clean towels. This was why she'd been my best friend for 15 years. She didn't ask questions. She just acted. Get some sleep, baby, I told Kiara, hugging her tight. We'll figure this out in the morning. But I knew there wouldn't be any sleep for me. At 6 a.m, my captain called. Marcus Webb had been my boss for 8 years, had promoted me through the ranks, had always supported my career. His voice on the phone sounded tired and disappointed. Janelle, Internal Affairs is opening an investigation. Hayes' attorney filed a formal complaint, alleging you abused your authority to interfere with a legitimate domestic violence call. They're also questioning whether you've been covering for your daughter's behavioral issues. Marcus, none of that is true. Darnell is lying. He hurt Kiara, not the other way around. I believe you, but my hands are tied. You need to surrender your badge and weapon pending the investigation. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Just like that, 15 years of service meant nothing. I was suspended, under investigation, and legally separated from my own daughter while my abuser played victim in my house. Rashida found me sitting at her kitchen table staring at my badge. We need to go through everything, she said. Every text, every photo, every piece of evidence. If Darnell planned this, there has to be a trail. We spent hours combing through Kiara's phone. The text messages Darnell had screenshotted were real, but they told a completely different story in context. Before each of Kiara's angry outbursts, there were messages from Darnell that had been deleted from his phone but were still on hers. You're just like your father. Weak and pathetic. Your mother would choose me over you any day. You're nothing. Keep running your mouth. Let's see what happens. He'd been systematically breaking her down, pushing her buttons, then documenting only her reactions, building a case against a 15-year-old girl like she was a criminal. Look at this, Rashida said, pointing to her laptop screen. I pulled the 911 call recording. Darnell called at 2:13 a.m. But look at the timestamp on your home security system. The front door opened at 2:09 a.m. That's when Kiara ran outside. So he waited 4 minutes before calling? I leaned closer. Why? Because he was staging the scene. Watch. The security footage showed Kiara bursting out the front door, running down the driveway. 30 seconds later, Darnell appeared. But he didn't chase her. He stood in the doorway, straightened his torn shirt to make it look worse, then went back inside. The camera caught him through the front window, messing up the living room, knocking over the side table, pulling his own hair. "He's creating evidence," I whispered. "He hurt himself on purpose." My phone buzzed. A news alert. My stomach dropped as I read the headline. "Police captain, under investigation, after daughter attacks. Stepfather." The story was already spinning out of control. Local news had picked it up. Social media was exploding. Parents from Kiara's school were commenting, some defending us, others questioning why I hadn't seen my daughter's obvious problems. By noon, news vans were parked outside Rashida's building. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. The department had released a statement confirming my suspension. Darnell's attorney held a press conference, painting him as a devoted stepfather trying his best with a violent teen and a mother too proud to admit her daughter needed help. "We need to stop reacting and start investigating," Rashida said. Darnell didn't learn this level of manipulation overnight. Men like this have patterns. They practice. She disappeared into her home office. I sat with Kiara, holding her while she cried, apologizing over and over for not listening, for not seeing, for choosing a man over my own daughter's safety. "I thought you didn't love me anymore," Kiara sobbed. "I thought he was more important." "Never," I promised. "You are everything." "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." At midnight, Rashida emerged from her office, her face pale. She held printouts, her hands shaking slightly. "Janelle," she said quietly. "I ran Darnell's name through every database I have access to. The national ones that go back 20 years. Not just the standard background checks. And he's been married 4 times before you. 4 times! And 3 of those marriages ended the exact same way." She spread the papers across the table, with restraining orders filed by him against teenage stepchildren. The room started spinning. 4 other women. 3 other daughters. "There's more," Rashida continued, her voice tight. "I found court records. One of those stepchildren went to juvenile detention for 6 months. Another lost college scholarships because of her record. These girls' lives were destroyed, Janelle. And Darnell walked away clean every single time, with settlement money and his reputation intact." I stared at the documents, my mind racing. This wasn't about me and Kiara. We were just his latest targets in a pattern spanning 2 decades. "We need to find these women," I said. "We need them to testify. Already on it. I have names and last known addresses." "But Janelle," Rashida hesitated. "One of them lives right here in Oakland. She's been here the whole time." Her name was Tabitha Chen. She was 22 now, working as a barista at a coffee shop downtown. Rashida had tracked her down through old court records and social media. When we called, she hesitated for a long time before agreeing to meet. We met at a park across town where the news vans wouldn't find us. Tabitha arrived wearing oversized sunglasses even though the sky was grey. She was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. When she sat down on the bench beside me, she kept her distance. "I saw you on the news," she said quietly. "I knew it was him the second I saw his face. I almost called you, but—" She trailed off, her hands twisting in her lap. "But what?" I asked gently. "Nobody believed me last time. Why would they believe me now?" Kiara sat on my other side, listening. I'd brought her because Tabitha needed to see she wasn't alone, that Darnell's pattern was real and documented. "Tell me what happened," I said. Tabitha took a shaky breath. "My mom married him when I was 14. He seemed perfect at first. Rich, successful, charming. My mum was a nurse, worked crazy hours, and Darnell promised to take care of me when she was gone. For about 6 months, everything was fine. Then it changed? Slowly. So slowly I didn't even notice at first. He started making rules. Checking my homework. Going through my room. My mum thought he was being a good stepfather, trying to help raise me right. But when she wasn't home, he'd get mean. Call me names. Tell me I was fat, ugly, stupid. That my real father left because I wasn't worth staying for. Kiara made a small sound beside me. I squeezed her hand. When I tried telling my mum, she was always too tired or too busy. She worked double shifts to help pay for Darnell's expensive lifestyle, even though he supposedly had money. I started keeping a diary, writing down everything he said, everything he did. I hid it under my mattress. Did he find it? I asked. Tabitha nodded. He found it and used it against me. Took it to my mum, but only showed her the pages where I wrote about hating him, about wishing he was dead. Made it seem like I was unstable. My mum made me see a therapist. Darnell came to the sessions, played the concerned stepfather. The therapist believed everything he said. What happened the night you were arrested? Tabitha's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I was 16. He came into my room late at night. My mum was working a night shift at the hospital. He stood in my doorway, just watching me sleep. When I woke up and asked what he was doing, he said he was making sure I was safe. But his eyes... She shuddered. I told him to get out, he wouldn't move, so I got up and tried to push past him. That's when he grabbed me. Where did he grab you? My arms, my shoulders. He shoved me back toward the bed. I screamed. He let go immediately and ran to the stairs. Before I could process what happened, I heard him fall. He threw himself down the stairs, Mom, on purpose. I heard the thuds, heard him groaning. Then he called 911 and said, I pushed him. My blood ran cold. He threw himself downstairs. I watched from the top landing. He looked up at me while he was doing it, smiled, then let himself fall, broke his collarbone, had bruises everywhere. The police came and arrested me right there in my pajamas. I tried to tell them what really happened, but there were no witnesses except him and me. A grown man with broken bones versus a teenage girl with no injuries. Who do you think they believed? What happened after? I spent 6 months in juvenile detention. Lost my scholarship to Berkeley. My mum divorced him eventually, but only after he'd taken half her savings in the settlement. She never fully believed my side of the story. We barely talk now. Tabitha finally removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were wet. He destroyed my whole life and walked away without a single consequence. Moved to a new city and did it all over again. Rashida pulled out photos of 2 other women. Do you know them? Tabitha studied the pictures. This one is Yvonne. Her daughter was before me. We found each other online a few years ago, both trying to make sense of what happened. She lives in Sacramento now. Her daughter was 17 when Darnell came into their lives. Same pattern, charm, control, then violence blamed on the kid. And the other woman? I don't know her, but if she was married to Darnell, I can guess how it ended. We spent 2 more hours with Tabitha, documenting everything. Rashida recorded her testimony. We got names, dates, court records. By the time we left the park, we had a clear picture of Darnell's system. He targeted successful single mothers with teenage daughters. He moved fast, married quickly, then isolated the children through psychological abuse. When the daughters inevitably reacted, he'd create a violent incident, always making sure he was the one with visible injuries. He'd press charges, destroy the girls' reputations, then leverage the situation to extract money from the mothers in divorce settlements. 4 families before mine, 4 daughters whose lives were derailed. And Darnell had been perfecting his method for over a decade. We need to contact Yvonne, I said as we drove back to Rashida's apartment. If we can get multiple victims to testify, show the pattern. My phone rang. Vernon Cross's number flashed on the screen. Captain Morrison. His smooth voice oozed through the speaker. Mr. Hayes would like to extend a settlement offer. He's willing to drop all charges against your daughter if you sign over half your pension, the house, and agree to a gag order preventing you from speaking publicly about this matter. You have 24 hours to decide. And if I refuse? Then we proceed with criminal charges. Your daughter will have a record. You'll likely lose your job, and Mr. Hayes will pursue a civil suit for emotional distress. The choice is yours." The line went dead before I could respond. Rashida looked at me. "What do we do?" I thought about Tabitha, about those other girls whose lives Darnell had destroyed, about Kiara sitting in the back seat, her future hanging in the balance. "We set a trap," I said, "and we use his ego to catch him." Vernon Cross agreed to meet at a neutral location, a conference room at a hotel downtown, away from cameras and reporters. He thought we were coming to negotiate the settlement. What he didn't know was that Rashida had called in every favor she had with the district attorney's office. Darnell arrived wearing an expensive suit, his lips still slightly swollen from where Kiara had hit him with the lamp. He looked confident, comfortable, like a man who'd won this game 4 times before and knew exactly how it would end. "Captain Morrison," he said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. It's what's best for everyone, especially Kiara." Hearing him say my daughter's name made my skin crawl. I sat down across from him, Rashida beside me, our lawyer at the head of the table. Vernon laid out papers detailing the settlement terms. "You sign over half your pension, the house transfers to Mr. Hayes, and all charges against Kiara are dropped. Additionally, you both sign agreements never to speak about this matter publicly." It's very generous considering the circumstances. "I have some questions first," I said calmly, "about how this all happened." Darnell leaned back in his chair, that smile playing at his lips. "Of course. I understand you're struggling to accept that your daughter has problems. It's hard for any mother. These rules you implemented," I continued, "the phone restrictions, the room checks, going through her belongings. When did you decide that was necessary?" "When I noticed her behavioral issues, the disrespect, the anger. Someone needed to provide structure." "Right. And the text messages where you provoked her, called her names, then deleted your own messages while keeping her angry responses. When did you plan that?" Vernon's hand moved to Darnell's arm in warning, but Darnell brushed him off. His confidence was too strong. He thought he'd already won. "I never provoked her. Those screenshots show exactly what she said to me. Unprovoked threats and violence." "What about Tabitha?" I asked. "Did she make unprovoked threats too?" Something flickered across Darnell's face. "Just for a second." "I don't know who that is." "Tabitha Chen. You were married to her mother 11 years ago. Tabitha was 14 when you met her. 16 when you had her arrested for pushing you down the stairs. Except you threw yourself down those stairs, didn't you?" "This is inappropriate," Vernon cut in. "My client's previous marriages have no bearing on—" "What about Yvonne's daughter?" Rashida interrupted. "Or the other 2 girls whose lives you destroyed using the exact same pattern? Marry the mother, isolate the daughter, provoke a reaction, play the victim, collect the settlement money." Darnell's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Those marriages ended amicably." "Amicably?" I pulled out folders, spreading documents across the table. Court records show restraining orders, assault charges, settlements ranging from $50,000 to $200,000. That's your business model, isn't it? You don't want the families. You want the money. You target successful women, use their children as leverage, then extract everything you can before moving to the next city. "This is slander," Vernon said, standing. "We're done here." "Sit down," a new voice said from the doorway. District Attorney Patricia Coleman walked in, followed by 2 detectives. Vernon's face went pale. "Mr. Hayes," Patricia said, taking a seat. "We've been reviewing some interesting evidence. Financial records showing you researched Captain Morrison's assets before you even met. Security footage from her home showing you staging the crime scene. Testimony from 3 of your previous stepdaughters describing identical patterns of abuse." "You can't use any of that," Vernon sputtered. "It's all legally obtained," Patricia interrupted. "We also have the recording from this meeting. Would you like to hear it?" Rashida held up her phone, the recording app running. Every word Darnell had said was captured. Darnell's mask finally cracked. His smooth expression twisted into something ugly. You can't prove anything. Those girls were troubled. Their mothers will tell you. I tried to help them and got attacked for it, just like with Kiara. Actually, I said quietly, we can prove it. We found your office files. The ones you kept on potential targets. Women with assets, teenage daughters, working, demanding jobs that kept them away from home. You scored us, rated us, planned your approach before the first date even happened. How did you… Darnell caught himself, but it was too late. Your business partner gave us access, Rashida said. Turns out he's been worried about your behavior for a while. When we showed him the pattern, he cooperated fully. Darnell stood abruptly, his chair scraping across the floor. This is entrapment. You set me up because you can't handle that your daughter is violent and you're a failure as a mother. There it is, Patricia said calmly. The real Darnell Hayes. Not the charming businessman or concerned stepfather. Just an abuser who targets children to get money from their mothers. Vernon grabbed his briefcase. I'm withdrawing as counsel. Mr. Hayes, I strongly suggest you retain new representation immediately. He walked out without looking back, leaving Darnell standing alone, his carefully constructed image finally shattered. The detectives moved forward. Darnell Hayes, you're under arrest for filing a false police report, assault, witness intimidation and fraud. As they read him his rights, Darnell looked at me one last time. You think you've won? This will follow Kiara forever. She'll always be the girl who attacked her stepfather. The system doesn't forget. No, I said, standing to face him. She'll be the girl who survived a predator. And so will Tabitha, and Yvonne's daughter, and all the others you tried to destroy. We're not your victims anymore. We're your witnesses. They led him away in handcuffs. The smooth, confident man who'd walked into my life 8 months ago was gone, replaced by someone small and pathetic and powerless. Patricia turned to me. All charges against Kiara are dropped. Your badge will be reinstated with a formal apology from the department.